All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. I'm Krista Meister from Opticall, and we appreciate everybody joining us here today to see how AI is helping practices become more efficient. If you have any questions, feel free to put them into the chat bar, and we'll go ahead and address those throughout the webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce our speakers. First, Bill Mercier, who's our founder and CEO of Opticall. Bill started Opticall over 20 years ago with a pretty simple goal, and that was how to bridge the gap between marketing and the patient experience. His hands-on experience handling patient calls personally in the early stages of starting Opticall shapes how we design every solution and tool that we offer today. And also joining us is Casey Gantz, COO and administrator of Alliance Vision Institute out in Texas. Casey is a respected leader with over 30 years experience in the healthcare industry, 20 years in ophthalmology, and she blends a operational expertise with a deep understanding of the patient experience. And Casey, we're so thankful to have you here today and to share your personal experience, how it's going implementing AI into your practice. So thank you very much for being here. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it to you, Bill.
All right, thank you. We appreciate that. And again, appreciate Casey coming on with us. Casey, you and I have worked together now for probably in our early talks. Well, we've been talking to you in your practice for a couple of years now, but we really started chatting about AI tools and things that might be able to work for your office for probably about the last 8 months or so. And we really appreciate your just your open-mindedness and even thinking about using AI in a practice. And I wanted to talk to you just a little bit before we get started and really talk about some of the tools that we've created and the impact and some of the things that we've learned. In ophthalmology, and I'm sure with all of your peers that you talk to on a regular basis, where does AI fit in? What are people looking for and why are they looking for it?
I think that in healthcare in general, it is the up and coming technology, the movement into being efficient and strategic and meaningful, providing a resource to your employees that allows them to maintain a human connection that is important. So, I know that we'll probably get into the nuance of that. There's a lot of back and forth about I'll never do AI, because XYZ, it takes the human connection away, or we're replacing staff. That's not ever our goal. And I don't think that's the right approach to this technology. So I've had a lot of meaningful conversations about it, not just with you, Bill, but also across the board in administrative groups and what others are doing or their interest in it. I don't consider myself an expert, but if the technology is there to fill gaps strategically with automation, I think that we need to use that resource. It makes us more efficient and more patient-centric than without.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. And, it's as you and I have, chatted over the months, I know that you took some time as well to look into a lot of different tools, because even today, I just got an email this morning that our phone provider is providing AI receptionists. And so I know that you've looked into a lot of different tools, and I think are you on Ring Central, if I recall correctly?
We are.
Yeah, even Ring Central offers an AI receptionist. And so after all of your investigation that you did, and it was thorough, why did you decide to go with Opticall as opposed to some of these huge companies that are out there that are saying that they can do this and that?
I think that's an easy answer. And you're right, I did take my time, and I appreciated the patience that you kind of allowed from the administrator's role. My perspective was, this is like taking a drink out of a fire hydrant. It's extreme. It's so quick. There are a lot of organizations that are creating AI, and some of it great, some of it closed and PHI protected, and some of it not. So it's one of those things when our office in particular, our practice, and Dr. Strange and I's mindset is always a progressive standpoint. We want to be on the leading edge of what is the newest technology within our practice, and it's difficult to marry those two things together when technology like this is influencing the market so quickly and so rapidly. So staging out that so that you have time to kind of vet all things out was really important for me, because we have access to AI in other platforms like RingCentral. They were coming out with theirs at the same time as you and I were kind of talking about, the technology and what you guys would do and how it worked. We use Salesforce as our CRM. Same thing. They are coming out with AI, and even our EMR has some AI technology embedded in creation development that they're doing. But the main reason in vetting all of those things out that we went with you is because of all things that I researched, they did not have the call experience of our specialty that was necessary to set the AI up on a patient-facing platform that handled calls and engaged patients the way that is so important to us.
Yeah, I could definitely appreciate that, and I think, because I've tested a lot of different systems as well, as we're trying to figure out where do we go and what do we do and what do we want to use, and I've been approached by many different vendors to say, hey, use our tool, or we can build this for you and let us give you an example. And what I've seen out there so far has been that it's the experience of actually handling patients. I mean, when we take an agent, basically we take all of the knowledge of 23 years of patient handling, and we've done it in, the elective arena, we've done it in the general ophthalmology arena. So we've created manuals, and these agents aren't just about creating a role and a goal. It's about creating a knowledge base that they access, but that knowledge base really has to be steered to handling patient phone calls, the actual anatomy of a phone call and how it should flow. And we train these agents with that. We put our training materials directly into the knowledge base so that agent has the ability to access that and act as if they were one of our team members taking a phone call. So I definitely appreciate you doing your research and why you came with us as well. And so you're utilizing a couple of tools. We have an AI phone router that we're using for you in place of the phone IVR. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. But one of the other really cool things that was an idea that you gave me as we were kind of in our earlier stages is creating a virtual patient coordinator. What if we could create something that if our team was not available, to give people the option to talk to somebody or something and be able to get answers and even schedule an appointment. And so I took that as challenge accepted. And then we started playing around with it. I remember sending it to you and saying, hey, check this out, test it. And your early messages back were just so exciting that you were thrilled about how it sounded and what it did and all of that. So, and we appreciate you giving us the opportunity, so much so that we call that particular agent Casey. We've named it after you. So, and it's been a really fun project to work on. So I'm going to kind of go through here. This is kind of a fun slide. If people are old enough on this webinar to remember the transition of what's happened through answering phones in general, even at your own home in the beginning, and I'm definitely old enough when that phone was corded on a wall and you had a 20-foot cord if you wanted to go and get some privacy to go in the bathroom and speak to somebody, but the phones just rang. You didn't have anything. If nobody picked up on the phone, that phone could ring for 15 minutes and nobody would pick up, and it would just keep on ringing. And then came the invention of the answering machine. And initially, if you guys remember, it's kind of funny, it had the cassette tape in it. And if you hit the end of the cassette tape, the messages would be cut off when we try to erase the cassette and then flip the cassette and do all kinds of things just to get messages. And then they went into digital. And then we had the voicemail and call waiting. So call waiting was a big thing. If you remember back in the days when you're trying to call a friend of yours or your mother or whatever, when they were on the phone, you just couldn't get through. You'd get a busy signal. And then hold, putting people on hold and being able to speak to somebody and then go back and pick up on your hold. Then came the auto attendant, and that really helped practices as well. I mean, obviously, if we could answer a phone call with a live person every single time, that's great. That is the goal and the desire. But the reality of it is today, staffing issues are a problem. We can never have enough people, or people call out sick or whatever it may be. So auto attendants helped, and having that IVR, and for those who don't know what IVR is, it's interactive voice response. That's basically what it stands for, and that's the press 1, press 2, press 10. And then the next step in this, really, which helped tremendously, was that virtual callback, where you didn't have to lose your place in hold. You would receive a phone call. Now, the newest, and what I feel and what I'm seeing from all of my research, that's going to replace all of that, the phone IVR, everything, is that intelligent phone router. We've actually called it Robin. We tend to give all of our different agents a particular name. So Robin the router is what we have. But if we take a look at what's happening with traditional IVRs, is that, and this is, in any of my chats with any new practice that's interested in some sort of an AI phone router like a Robin, I do a little bit of investigation as to how many calls do you have coming in, and what is your abandonment rate, and what is your hold time, and what happens with the traditional phone IVR is people hear that, please listen carefully as the menu items have recently changed, and the very first thing they do is press 0. And here's some stats to present on that. In ophthalmology and elective medicine, 20 to 35% of the people that are hitting your phone IVR are just pressing 0. Why are they doing this? It's because they're impatient. There may be a confusing menu that's on there. It's just a habit that they do because they know that they're going to get to a live person. They don't have to listen to all of that. They're going to get to somebody and they can transfer that call off. What's the problem with that? The problem is that 100% of those phone calls now are hitting your scheduling team, your first line of defense that's supposed to be booking appointments. And I remember speaking to one of our large practices on a phone router, and we were kind of going through that discovery period. She had mentioned to me that they had 90 phone calls sitting in queue at that moment. That is tremendous. And so what happens is people sit in that queue, they get impatient in that queue, then they hang up, then they call back, and it's a vicious cycle. For some of the high performing practices that have a very good menu, people still press 0 to the extent of 10 to 15%. And then if you get a poorly designed IVR where it's got confusing menus and people just don't know what to press, up to 50% of the people are hitting that 0, and they're bypassing the menus to get to the correct department. So what is a phone router? An intelligent phone router basically answers those incoming calls, and it's trained to understand the caller intent through a conversation that routes them to the right department without having any menu items. So basically, these are used for AI routing and triage. So Casey, you've got one going right now, a Robin the router. Do we call her Robin in your phone system? I can't recall.
We do call her Robin.
Okay, so she's Robin, and if somebody's interested in refractive surgery, Robin actually transfers in some cases over to your virtual refractive coordinator if your team's not available, and that agent is named Summer, correct?
That's correct.
Yep. And that's one of the fun and interesting things about this is that these agents, we've had practices that actually have contests on who should they name it. Do they want a male voice? Do they want a female voice? And I think the other important piece of this too is that they're all multilingual as well. So if we look at some of the just kind of the expected caller sentiment with phone IVRs and AI routing, I'm sure everybody can attest that phone IVRs can be frustrating. Is that what you used before, Casey? Did you have a
Yeah, and I think to add some context on one of those slides, Bill, what was important for me is, with AI integration, replacing the IVR router, you're 100% right on that. You know, everybody pushes 0 to just get dropped into what they think is, you know, your generalized team.
Mhm.
And that may happen, yes, but we could strategically be more efficient at the way that we are handling our human connection.
Mhm.
And that, with replacing Robin, that's exactly what we accomplished. Was my call team was taking about 25 to 30% of the calls that were coming through our IVR were just generalized phone calls.
Mhm.
For example, what's your fax number, or um, what's the address to this location?
Mhm.
And you know, 25 to 30%, even if you cut that in half, that's still a percentage of time that my employees now get back that they can be patient facing.
Completely agreed. You
So
know,
yeah,
yeah, that's an interesting thing that we discovered. We didn't know exactly. I mean, you know, when you're putting these things together and you're going from the thought process to implementation, first of all, is it going to work at all? And what is the adoption rate? Are people going to like it? Are they not going to like it? What is you know, how long does it take for them to get used to using a tool like this? And you're absolutely right. I remember listening to one of the calls that came through, and that's what we call one-touch resolution, where they don't even have to talk to a live person. Somebody called at your office and wanted the fax number. And you know, we're learning from these things all the time, and we're training them all the time. We're listening to phone calls. I think it's one of the things that's really you know, something different that Opticall does, because we listen from a call center standpoint that actually handles the phone calls. And somebody said to the AI agent, when they asked about the fax number, she gave it out too fast. And he goes, "That's too fast. I can't write that down, dummy. Slow it down and say it again." And it's just so funny. I kind of call it bot abuse, but you'll get that. And it's really interesting because she apologized for saying it so fast, and then came back and repeated it slowly enough that he understood it. But you're right. I mean, that takes a big piece off of your call center if you can get that one call resolution off of the front desk. I'm actually going to play a router here in a couple minutes just to see what it sounds like. One of the things that's really important, did you, when you had your IVR in place, did you ever have anybody call up and say, I hate your phone tree? You know, it's awful, or I can never get to the right person.
you know, it's so interesting too. You know, we're talking about the newest technology that's available, you know, on the market, to make us more efficient. But if we look at the outside world, we're all creatures of convenience, right? Most people, you would think, are accessing your website or your Google page to gain some of the content. There's a large number of people that are like, oh, I'll just call the phone number,
Hmm.
right? So you would think you're not offsetting a lot of work, but you really are. And understanding that was what really made us recognize there was space for us to improve that and let us be more patient facing.
Right, absolutely. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's trying to create tools and utilize different systems that can enhance the patient experience, make them happier, you know, just make the overall patient interaction, you know, better. And you had actually mentioned when we were chatting the other day that the AI agent got a Google review. Well, it's not just the AI agent. It's really that in conjunction with how well your team is tuned and their experience that they had from the beginning to the end. Can you talk a
Right.
little bit about that?
Yeah, it was not surprising to me. I mean, you know, whenever you're implementing anything and integrating something new into your practice, it is a little bit of a shift, especially if it's patients that are already established with your practice.
Hmm.
One day they call and it's an IVR, and they already know I'm going to press 0, right?
Right.
And the next day they call and they're introduced to Robin, um, an AI agent who's going to assist them, and they're immediately like, what is this, right?
Hmm.
Now on
Hmm.
the IVR system, we could have a message that runs, you know, 5-10 minutes long, that gives all the addresses, and I'm elaborating that time frame there, but it could give your fax number, your all the generalized questions that you think that you could offset. But the truth is if they don't hold to listen to the entirety of the message, they're not getting it. They're just going to push 0. And that's what we were having with the IVR. So
Right.
we were having that issue with the IVR. And when we switched to Robin, I would say the first week or two, and there wasn't negative sentiment. It was more like, what is this?
Yep.
This is new. And they weren't used to having someone immediately engageable with them. So we had to work through that a little bit. But yeah, Robin now is, I mean, it took no time for us to, tweak the cadence of the loudness of a voice or the tone. And I love that we were able to go, okay, these are the things we need to tweak now that we have her up, and we're able to do that. So the ease of use was great. Now Robin is just, she's an extension of our team, if you will.
And I love that we address her as she.
She's getting Google reviews when a patient looks at their experience with our team, the human experience from check-in to check-out, and they are rating us to give us a Google review. They're including Robin. And so, in 2 short months, 90 short days, we're at a spot where Robin's already getting Google included in the Google reviews. It's a great thing.
Very quick. What was your staff's response when you told them you're going to have this talking router? Were they negative? Were they apprehensive?
I think there is generalized apprehension, not just, singular to my staff, but I think that this is new. It's new technology, and it's just being like, rushed and infiltrated into the market. And you feel like, I have to get on this. I need to see, how this works for my, and then you have others that are like, we're not doing that at all. Yeah. We're not going to, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit of a mixed bag, not just with my staff, but also, out in the market. And my approach with the staff, first off, I never, ever, ever have an intent to replace our human connection. The foundation of this practice is patient-centric care that requires human connection. We are not going to get away from that. I'm a patient myself, you guys are patients, and we want those things. But we need to find a way to shift the bell curve of efficiency within practice operations that provide us the opportunities to be more patient-centric. And so that, framed in that perspective, our team is on board, appreciates it, and appreciates that there is the ability to fill gaps where someone is out, or a counselor is a refractive counselor is with a patient facing, and can't answer a call, but those calls are meaningful and you want to respond to those immediately. This gives us the ability to do that.
Agreed. It's interesting as we kind of take a look at, and we review a lot of the AI voice calls. And just to be clear with anybody who's familiar with Opticall, we are not going AI voice for everything. Our core services, backed by humans to answer phone calls, to work with web leads, all of that is still here. That is a major focus of what Opticall does. We just looked at AI as a way to branch out to not only support our refractive practices, but any of the practices that we work with any of the specialties that we are in, and beyond just the elective piece of things. So just wanted to make sure that I put that out there as well. So let's we've got some slides I want to go through here. Traditional phone IVRs see about 20 to 30% negative sentiment. What is the goal for an AI agent? I've done some research on this, because we look at the sentiment values of what we've got with our agents that are out there now, that are taking literally thousands of phone calls a day for practices now. It blows me away at how many are coming through the system at this point. but a well-trained AI router is typically between 10 and 15% with the sentiment, and the rest fall within neutral or positive. So some of the key metrics that we want to track when we're looking at this is what percentage of calls are handled without a human transfer. And we're seeing a big range on this. We're seeing anywhere from 20% up to 45% of the phone calls are handled without having to have a human transfer or transferring to a human, which is taking a lot of pressure off of some of the practices. What is the satisfaction rate? I think sentiment score is critical. As I had mentioned, well-trained AI should be between 10 and 15%. What is the average handling time reduction for the phone team? And how many people are just sitting in a queue, the hold times that are affected? Are there after hours conversion rates? Because these routers and agents can talk to patients 24/7, and during the holidays, are they actually interacting with it and using those? And then again, we talked about a little bit about the negative sentiment rate. So what makes people a little bit frustrated with it? Well, in the beginning, they're impatient. Some people don't like any type of automated system. I've heard patient calls where they're so frustrated with that phone IVR and the hold time that they're in that queue that they want to call another practice and change doctors. So some people are just impatient. What we've seen from the AI routers as we move along is there's training and tuning. So the first 30 days of launching anything, we think we have everything covered, but we don't. We never will. And so there are certain terms, certain things that people say, I need to speak to a nurse or whatever it may be, terminology that we're learning all the time as we do more to build into new routers that we're launching. But there's, sometimes there are complex requests that come through that the agent cannot figure out what to do. And so what's important with any of that is that you create a fail-safe. So if this happens, then do that. And these routers are incredibly complex in the back end of it. It's basically a whole section of nodes with if-then statements. If you saw how big they are and what they do, it's more than just creating a simple prompt and agent. And then trust and tone. I think that's one thing that's really important, and this is something that you had mentioned, Casey, is that the sound of the agent and how they talk to patients is very important. I've heard some AI agents from samples that people have sent me. I'm like, that's awful. You can tell that it's not trained to be empathetic at all. It's just trained to simply answer questions. And I know we've actually changed voices on a couple of yours, haven't we, Casey?
Yeah, we adjusted basically inflection, tone, inflection of tone with Summer versus Robin. But they both, that was one of the things that again, along with the, years of specific specialty experience that you and your team come with, the tone and the inflection of the other options out there that I reviewed, they just absolutely did not have that. And when you have a practice that is built on, again, the foundation of patient-centric care, ROE is just as important as ROI, right? We of course we're not a non-for-profit. We are a for-profit business, but we are healthcare. We're healthcare providers doing the very best that we can, and ROE matters. Right. So the experience that a patient has when they're connecting to your AI and it's patient-facing is imperative. And so that was one of the reasons why. One of the very large reasons why we went with you guys as well.
I think that it's really interesting that you say that. We've created, now we have texting agents to, work with web forms, different things like that. And I know there's other companies that do that. And so, I've studied them. I've really made it my job to figure out what are these companies doing and what can we do that's different. And I think one of the most important things, whether it's voice agent, texting agent, chatbot on your website, whatever it may be, is they need that particular agent really needs to reflect your brand voice. Who are you? And who does the practice want to be? What are you representing? And I think a lot of companies that are out there that are doing this are missing that as a big part of the puzzle to make these as, you know, natural and trusting as they possibly can. So
I would
got,
say, you know, to kind of back that up, what I found when I went out and did my own research, and I'm certainly not an expert when it comes to AI. I'm far from that. But I have ideas about ways in which to use it, and that's what made our collaboration so great and makes it great today. The thing that that I found in those other options was that it was clear there that their agents had the ability to potentially do the exact same things, right? But they sounded terrible. It literally, it was like taking the IVR voice and putting it on an AI agent. And if you're wanting to be different, you've got to choose to be different in a way. And that is exactly the point about the tone and inflection and engagement that matters with, especially a voice agent.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. I think there's a lot to be learned when you launch these, and you know, when we take a look at our sentiment rate that I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes, one of the things that we do is we hone in. And I hate to use the term negative sentiment because we really want to hone in on positive sentiment. But when we look at the actual sentiment value, we have the ability to go in and filter by those phone calls and look at them and listen to them and see what that interaction is and why would somebody be frustrated. And so some of the things that we look at is, first thing you want to do, you want to make sure that you're getting that person to a human as quickly as you can. If somebody's wanting the optical shop, you don't want to have the AI agent ask a million questions. Well, is this about your glasses or your contacts? And, you know, so on and so forth. You really want to get those calls off as quickly as possible. And the voice needs to be human-like, as you had mentioned. You can't have, you know, your phone IVR voice because people know that that is a machine that's answering it. And AI voices have become so much better. And I mean, you know, we're doing these in some other fields that we're not so restricted in. Kristen actually got approached, and I don't know, you know, how the company found us, but by a distillery that puts on, you know, bands and different things like that, brings in food trucks and all that kind of stuff on the weekends. And they contacted us, and, you know, Kristen and our team put together an agent. And it is just so incredibly cool to hear this agent, because we don't have to be, we're not restricted to medicine in this particular one where we have to be perfect English and, you know, perfectly speaking. And this agent sounds like a laid back chick answering the phones. And it's just really, really, the technology is so different now than what it was, and the architecture that we're working with is so different than, you know, what even just a few years ago. So benchmarks for AI routers is that negative, that 10% negative or better is excellent performance. If you're falling into the 15 to 20%, that's the typical in healthcare or elective medical call centers. And if you're hitting 25% negative sentiment values, then that's a red flag that your AI router agent, whatever it may be, needs to be completely trained. There's something wrong with the way that it's working. So, and I'm going to play a router here in a moment after we talk a little bit about this. Once we started to hone in on sentiment values and looked at that, what we found is that our agents were getting -2 to 3%. And again, I didn't know what that meant. I really had no context on that until I started to do the research and finding out that a good trained, a well-trained agent should be getting between 10 and 15%. And we were under 3 with ours. And so, you know, why is that? And I think a lot of it has to do with how we've trained them. As I had mentioned previously, the knowledge base that we've created and that we access with the routers that we put in there are the same exact materials that we would train our humans with. Our people that we wanted to do an outstanding job on a phone call, that goes into the knowledge base of these routers as well. But here's some of the things that we've recognized as we've launched these. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Reduces the staff burden up to 40%, which we've seen. Answers that one-touch call 15% of the calls can be resolved immediately. I'll show you an example of that in a moment. Increased and consistent patient experience. This is one thing that we've recognized, Casey, with your summer agent, because I really wanted to study that one in particular and find out what's going on, is the interactions that people are having with that are really interesting. And I say that because I get a chance to review a lot of human phone calls from our own phone team. And what I find is the calls are shorter. And it's that people are very direct in asking questions and getting the answers that they want. And if they need to speak to a human, we've seen them say, yeah, I need to speak to somebody, can you transfer me now? And your summer agent does that successfully whenever that's needed. But she's sending scheduling links out as well. And I'm going to let Kristen talk a little bit about that. And people are accepting them. And then they're booking appointments. It's just, it's bizarre. It's beyond what my expectations were. But then, these things are also multilingual. So if somebody speaks Spanish to it, on the fly, it's going to switch languages. And there are, I want to say, 31 different languages that we have the ability to, create with these agents. So, and again, as I had mentioned earlier, the negative 2% sentiment rate. Now I'm going to pause this for a second and bring something up. Let me see if I can pause my sharing here. And I'm going to test an agent here. Now this is, it's a demo that I put together for one of the practices that I've been talking to for a little while. So I'm just going to ask it some questions, just like a patient would. I don't know what's going to happen with this because I haven't asked it all the different scenarios, but we'll find out.
Hello, and thank you for calling Loden Vision Centers, providing world-class eye care since 1999. My name is Skylar, a virtual assistant. How can I help you today?
Yes, can you tell me your fax number in the Nashville location?
Absolutely. The fax number for our Nashville location is 615-829-5431. If you need the address or directions, just let me know. I can text or email them to you. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
Yes, my 12-year-old daughter's been having a problem seeing the chalkboard in school. Do you do pediatric ophthalmology?
Thank you for sharing your concern about your daughter's vision. While Loden Vision Centers specializes in advanced vision correction and comprehensive eye care for patients of all ages, we do provide routine eye exams for children and teens. Our doctors can evaluate her vision, check for refractive errors like nearsightedness, and recommend glasses or other treatments if needed. Would you like to schedule a comprehensive eye exam for your daughter or speak with a member of our team for more information?
I'm not ready to do that, but if she does need glasses, do you have an optical shop?
Yes, we do. Loden Vision Centers has a full-service optical shop at each of our locations. We offer a wide selection of designer frames, including brands like Maui Jim, Costa, Oakley, Kate Spade, and Tiffany, as well as value packages for prescription glasses to fit your budget. Our licensed opticians are great at helping kids and teens find frames that fit comfortably and suit their style. If your daughter needs glasses, we can help with frame selection, fittings, and prescription lenses. If you'd like, I can send you more information about our optical shop or connect you with our optical team. Would you like details on pricing or brands or have any other questions?
No, that's it. I'll call back.
Thank you for reaching out. If there's anything else we can help with, feel free to call us back anytime. Have a wonderful day.
There you go. So that's kind of an example. That's just a quick sample, and that isn't fully trained with every detail that this agent would need to do to route calls properly. There's a lot of functionality that goes in behind it. There's the ability to text different things. There's the ability to send emails, to take messages, a whole bunch of different things that can be built into the functionality of that. So,
Hey, Bill,
yeah.
quick question that came up. You'll be able to address this in, pretty quickly. How accurate is Summer and Robin at matching a patient record with the caller?
That's a really good question. So with an agent like Summer and Robin, the router or the virtual patient coordinator, they aren't designed to necessarily match and work with the practice management system itself. We do have another agent that I'll talk about in a little bit. We're going to get into a slide on what's coming and what we're working on now towards the end of the presentation that does have the ability to find the records in a PM system. But these agents are really geared to route. They're not pulling up that person in the practice management system. They're geared to get that call going in the right direction or give out information in the Casey agent Summer. In that instance, it's geared to educate the patient on refractive surgery options and talk to them. But that particular agent, which we'll play in a few minutes, is really geared to get somebody booked, answer questions, but get somebody booked. So let me share the presentation again here. Whoops, I turned off my camera. Sorry about that. Resume sharing. Here we go. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Oh, yeah, but it's not.
Beginning.
There you go.
Hang on 1 second, I just went back to the beginning. All right, so we went through this, and Kristen, I'll let you talk a little bit about the virtual patient coordinator.
Yeah, so the virtual patient coordinator is basically what Casey's using in her practice. She calls it Summer. It's available 24/7, 365 days a year. People can use it when your A team, if you will, isn't available. It can roll over to the VPC, and it's going to educate your patients. It's neutral, never in a bad mood. She never calls in sick or goes on vacation. As I mentioned, she handles overflow and after hours. All the agents are multilingual. So if you're in a high Spanish speaking population or anything, I think there's over 30 languages, and really provides smart scheduling and seamless handoffs. She will provide a scheduling link. And again, just like when we handle calls live, the number one goal is to get that appointment booked, get them in. Don't go through a consultation on the phone. Let the practice decide what procedure is best for them. And it's really augments the staff. It's not meant to take away anyone's job, but it's to help them do their job better. And really, if you've got a good refractive coordinator, you want them in front of the patient, converting them to surgery or following up with patients who didn't convert to surgery.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about
I think the interesting thing too, this is all coming from you, Kristen, which you were a refractive coordinator many years back before Opticall, and so you actually did the job, and so now you're getting a chance to see how this can help in a position that you previously had.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's what we do in general. This is just taking it to another level, and it's more cost effective than having us handle the phones.
And one of the interesting things too is that I mentioned previously that we do this in other specialties. One of the things that we've done too, and we didn't know whether this would work or not. We launched it and we're like, is it going to get any action? Is it going to work? Is it going to be a good tool? We launched the same voice agent that we have that can be an extension of the phone system. We put it on a website. Our early thoughts on use cases is, what if we could put something on a website where somebody doesn't have to click on pages and navigate and do all of that stuff to go through the website to get answers? What if we put that agent as a button that somebody can click and actually speak to their computer, to the website, and get answers and have a full conversation the same way they would if they called the number? And so we did that. And in the bariatrics practice that we tested it with first, the conversations were so interesting to hear. And the agent itself is different than what we're doing in ophthalmology. In ophthalmology, we can have, and you'll hear in the patient coordinator one, we can have a little bit of fun with it. But there are serious conversations that are going on in other types of specialties. And I just listened to a phone call the other day that this person might not have talked to a human about because they might have been embarrassed. And the gentleman was just trying to get answers as to how much weight does he need to lose in order to have bariatric surgery. And he asked the agent, he said, hey, I'm 600 pounds and I'm 6 feet tall. What is my BMI? And the agent didn't hesitate, was very empathetic to that, but didn't hesitate to come back and say, you're at 81 for your BMI. I mean, she knew. And it was just crazy. I've heard people talk about how they have addictions to bacon, or can they eat chili cheese dogs? And this is just a different specialty, but you know, the conversations that people are having are so different than what they might not say to a human because they're embarrassed to say it. So let's move on along to the next. And this is we did some early look at what the agent was doing. This is your summer agent, Casey, and some of the results that we saw early on.
Yeah, so these were very early on. You launched early September, and what we're looking at was just a week of data, which I loved this because, you know, I know you watch everything like a hawk, which is amazing because I like looking at data too. What you shared is really impressive. You were showing at that time a 70% increase, or, I'm sorry, a 70% conversion rate to some type of surgery, RLE, EVO, or LASIK. And you just shared data with us this week that you had a 73% conversion rate from the initial agent to booked consultation. And just to put that into perspective, the industry standard for phone call to book consult is 60% or less. If we're being realistic, probably more like 50%. Obviously, that's going to vary from practice to practice, but your agent is converting higher than the national average. The numbers I loved the most, though, is since you launched and the numbers you shared with us in October, you have already completed 11 surgeries from this agent.
Yes.
Yeah, and you
and I know it's extremely mind-blowing when you think about this from a technology perspective, but now that we're months into it, it makes sense, doesn't it? Like when you go onto a website, if you have to interact with a chat bot in a box, do you do that? I don't.
no,
Right?
I don't
I'm
either.
not doing that. I hate the little chat bot. If I call a practice and I get and I'm a patient and I get mixed information from department to department about what procedures you offer, or this, that, or the other, you lose trust in the value and the approach and the experience you're going to have with that
Yes.
practice. So these are things that doesn't happen with summer.
Yeah,
Right.
it's been very interesting to look. We're gonna zip through these quick because we're running out of time, Bill. But some of the highlights that we've seen, efficient call handling. The average talk time has been about 4 minutes, which is interesting because when we look at average talk time with live people, it's longer. It's usually 6 to 8 minutes is what we see on our ends. The agent's able to screen, answer questions, and most importantly, know when to route that call to a human. It's not going to force automation onto that person. It's improving self-service. So 70% of patients are fine getting a link and booking on their own, which is showing the acceptance rate is pretty high. The smart handoff that ties into being able to hand it off to a human when that's needed. Again, we're not here to replace humans, but just take those easy tasks away so your staff can focus on high valued patients, if you will, and give that individual attention when they're in the practice. The website lead engagement, we didn't really talk about that much, but basically you can put your version of Summer or the virtual patient coordinator on a website. It can be broad or it can be very specific. And what's really powerful with this, you can see 84% of calls were website-driven inquiries. The virtual agent is engaging these patients at the moment when they're interested and they're curious. So that builds trust. It improves the customer service. They don't have to scroll through a website. They don't have to submit a form and wonder, am I going to get a response back in a couple hours, in a couple of days, or not at all? So really, we're seeing the adoption rate has been has been very high with the agents as a whole.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that you brought that point up yesterday when we were kind of chatting about the website agents, in that people don't have to fill out that form now. And there's a lot of systems that are out there. We have one as well. So when the forms are filled out, people are engaged within minutes, and AI is backing with texting and all of that stuff. So I don't think that's ever going to go away. However, I think what we're seeing in the actual experience that we're seeing is that people are talking to the agent on the website. And that also ends up in a lot of one call resolution too. I've watched these calls and listened to them, and I see people, again, just asking a simple question. What time is your office open on Monday? Different things like that. They're not making the phone call. They're clicking on the button, and they're having not a chat. They're having a conversation and getting things answered that they would have picked up the phone and tried to call. So, you know what? I do want to play with those.
Real quick, Bill.
Mhm.
Somebody brought something up in the chat asking how we're able to book. Let me clarify that. We're able to send scheduling links to your online schedule, or we can create a ghost calendar for booking. Bill's going to talk a little bit about what's in the future though for direct scheduling.
Yes, I do. Prior to doing that, I would like to play a virtual patient coordinator, if it's okay with you guys. I'll do my latest demo here that I put together.
Hello, I am Skylar, your virtual vision assistant for Southern Eye Group. How can I help you today?
Yes, can you tell me how much LASIK costs?
Absolutely, I can help with that. In the Gulf Coast area, LASIK procedures typically range from $1,500 to $2,500 per eye on average. The exact cost depends on your individual needs and what's best for your eyes. We offer flexible payment options through Care Credit with deferred interest and extended payment plans, and we also accept HSA and FSA accounts. May I get your first name to make this a bit more personal?
Sure, it's Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Perfect. Just to make sure I give you the most relevant info, may I ask your age?
Yes, I'm 45.
Got it, Bill. Thanks for sharing that. Are you currently wearing glasses or contacts?
I actually wear both.
Thanks, Bill. That's helpful. Do you use your glasses or contacts mostly for reading, for distance, or for both?
I wear them for everything. I practically sleep in them.
I hear you, Bill. Sounds like you're ready for a break from the constant eyewear routine. Do you also have an astigmatism?
I've never been told that. Is that a problem?
Not a problem at all, Bill. Many people have a mild astigmatism and don't even realize it. LASIK, SMILE, and other procedures can often correct it if needed. If you're not sure, our complimentary consultation includes a thorough exam to check for astigmatism and other factors, so you'll get a clear answer. If you could do any activity without worrying about glasses or contacts, what would be your favorite thing to do?
I would like to be a competitive pet groomer for baby goats.
That's fantastic, Bill. I have to say, Goat Glam Squad has a nice ring to it. And not having to fuss with glasses or contacts while wrangling adorable baby goats sounds pretty ideal. Would you like to hear more about scheduling a complimentary consultation to see if you're a good candidate for LASIK or other vision correction options?
Sure, that would be great.
Awesome, Bill. Here's what you can expect. For LASIK, SMILE, PRK, and EVO ICL, the consultation is complimentary. The visit takes about 90 minutes to 2 hours at one of our convenient Gulf Coast locations. You'll meet with our team, get your questions answered, and see if you're a good candidate. Plus, your visit may include dilation, so bring sunglasses just in case. If you'd like, I can text you a link to schedule your free consultation. Is there a good mobile number where I can send that info?
You know what? I've got to get back to a webinar now. Can I call you back?
Of course, Bill, no problem at all. You can reach Southern Eye Group anytime at 251-990-3937. If you'd like, I can text you the scheduling link now so it's handy whenever you're ready. Would you like me to send that to your mobile?
That's okay. I'll call back.
Sounds good, Bill. Whenever you're ready, just give us a call at 251-990-3937. Wishing you and your baby goats a great day, and I'll be here if you need anything else.
I always love doing that. It's so much fun to see what she says. But that kind of gives you an idea, Casey, as you had mentioned earlier, how do you train these things, or what do you do, or what makes them sound real? And there's so much room for creating these, for putting little things in there like and voice inflection. As you can hear, this particular agent is kind of laid back, a little bit gravelly in her voice, sounds very natural, but some people may say, I don't really want that one. Can you give me some other examples? So, but the other interesting thing too, if you heard it, she offered out the texting link, and then when I had to exit the call, she offered to send it again. So she's steered to try to really hone in on getting that scheduling link out. And so, what are we doing in the future? What are some of the things that Opticall has our eyes on? And I've heard a couple of times, can you do scheduling? So we've created what we call Roger the Rescheduler. Our goal is to walk before we run. And so Roger the Rescheduler, we have connected the back end of the voice system through APIs through Promptly. Anybody who uses Promptly now or is a Promptly customer, we can have Roger as part of your phone system, can find that patient in the schedule and can move them along. Obviously, we want to put some guardrails on that and some rules in, because we don't want people rescheduling a surgery or an important post-op or something along that lines. So that's one piece that we're literally launching as we speak. Then we do have other ways to connect to the major practice management systems rather than using Promptly's API, or you don't have to be a Promptly customer in order to do that. But we're also currently working on scheduling that new patient. And so the voice technology, we have the APIs already. We just need to do a little additional development, and we will be able to take that new patient that's calling in, create them in the system, and create a brand new appointment and do all of the information that needs to be done, and check insurance and all the scheduling rules that any of your team members would do if they were doing new patient intake. But some of the other things that we've thought about, and Casey, this is one that you gave me an idea on as well, and we tested it, and it actually worked really well, is patient education. Can we create a voice that somebody can talk to prior to their visit for, whether it be laser-based refractive, lens-based refractive, cataract, whatever it may be? We just created one about 2 weeks ago on interventional glaucoma. I keep on hearing that buzzword, and we've got an agent that can speak, intelligently about what it is, what are the treatments, and wrap that all back into the brand voice of the practice. And so there's a lot of different things that we're doing. And I'd encourage anybody who's on the webinar today, if you have something that you're thinking about, if you have a use case that you would like to try, challenge us. That's one thing that it gives me goosebumps to think about it. Give me an idea, give us an idea. Let us try it. Let us put together a demo, see if it works. Casey, is there anything that you would like to see further that could be done with any of these things now that it's probably been a while since you've heard these and heard some of the interactions that they have.
I think that you do not know what you're asking for, Bill. We've had so much collaboration over this last year about the things that that I think that areas that we could fill gaps with the use of this technology. They're immense. And they're not all patient facing, but they are immense. And the ones that are patient facing are so important. One of the things that, the patient education part is why, my philosophy is we listen to audiobooks because we don't have time I can do it in my car, right? Versus I'm not going to be sitting with a book and hopefully in my car, driving down the interstate, but I can listen to it. And same thing, like I love our website. Our website is fantastic. It's wonderfully put together, but the truth is someone is probably not going to go 3 clicks over to see that my comprehensive refractive practice is treating interventional glaucoma. Right. So how can we get the information and the education out to patients and quicker, sooner, in a way that they can use it? So I think the educative piece is really important, and the upcoming.
Absolutely. Agreed.
We are
Kristen,
out
any
of time. We're right at, yeah, but we're going on 12, 11, 10. Again, the computers are about to explode. Uh, so
For anybody
thank
who
you.
wants to stay on, we apologize for going on a little bit long. I think we just got so excited about what we're doing. But if you're willing to stay around for a few minutes while we can answer some questions, we appreciate that.
All right. So one of the questions was, once a patient has called in with a specific number and provided their name, does the virtual agent remember their name, call history, baby goat, caretaker, occupation, etc.?
That's a great question. That is not developed in the voice technology connecting that yet. However, that is something that we're working on because we want people to, based on a phone number, caller ID, or something like that, that it knows exactly who they are. So the technology exists, and these voice systems are getting better and better every single day. So in short time, yes, I would say that we'd be able to do that pretty easily.
And I would
Not a
say,
question. Oops, sorry.
just to supplement that, I'm sorry, Kristen, I would say that was one of the things you and I discussed recently, when we were engaged in Orlando, was the ability to do that, to take the context that AI is getting in the call and putting it in meaningful use. I think that will develop certainly as API connections and there's a spot for that content to house, because it wouldn't be meaningful for just AI to have it, but also your staff. Like, we're believers of that Ford mentality. We want to know all of these things about our patients, and we document it. So getting the agents to do that would be meaningful as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, not a question, but a comment. In all seriousness, you guys are awesome. It's our friend Tony. Here's a good question. How do you assess negative sentiment? We would like to test one that is active in refractive practice, reference practices, or other language already tested.
Yeah, absolutely. We can connect after the call and give you some routers that you can test and see how they are, and even put together a demo for your practice and see what it would sound like.
And then I think this one's more for Casey. Can we know either in the seminar or offline, and we can do it offline if you don't feel comfortable, but which companies did you research but decided against and chose OptiCall?
Yeah, I researched Ring Central, obviously. That's the company that we're using for our phone system. I researched their AI agent. I also researched Salesforce, because we are Salesforce users. We have a beautiful platform. They do have Agentforce, and Agentforce is amazing. I utilize it for other AI technology, just embedded, that's not patient facing. I would have had to change my phone system and also have development of the agent that wasn't specific to ophthalmology, because Salesforce is not specific. While my developers are specific to ophthalmology, the platform isn't. So I researched those main two externally. And Bill and I were already pretty deep into our conversations when we put a pause on it. And I came back to Bill and said, okay, I'm ready to move forward. Let's go.
And we appreciate that. And one of the interesting things too, is you're talking about all of these other technologies in the background for Salesforce, Go High Level, all these different CRM systems that are out there now, exists webhooks. Same thing with the voice agents that we create. There are webhooks. So if we want to get information from a voice agent over to a Salesforce or into some sort of a CRM, it's just a matter of creating the webhook and having it update things. So yep, that stuff is available now. Kristen, any others?
Okay, no, that covers it.
All right.
I think the last question is for Casey. Where do you see AI fitting in your practice in the future?
At filling all of the gaps that have made us inefficiently. I think that we're at a point, we're about to begin our 9th year in our practice, and I think that the spot that we're in today is we're still growing and developing, but we get, you can take time shaving to minutes, seconds, how do I make my clinical team faster? You know, how do we do more with less? Those are thoughts that I have, you know, when it comes to reimbursement and strategy and how we can service patients conveniently in their time frame and quickly, so that we're giving them quick access to care, you know, changing the way that we deliver that care to our patients, not wholly, but by shaving just minutes off. And this is where I see AI fitting in our practice. We are not replacing our humans at all. They are doing exceptionally meaningful work daily and are, you know, the heart of our practice. And so we won't be doing that, but what we are doing is filling in the gaps between human work and patient-facing care with technology that matters.
Absolutely. I think that's all great. And one of the things that it really does too is it opens up your practice now to be available for patients 24/7, 365. Where before, when the office was closed, they got the message and you know, an after hours emergency or whatever it may be. You know, they just couldn't get answers. They couldn't do anything, and now they can. And so I think that's a big piece of it. It's done that for Optical too, is it's extended our hours beyond what our humans can answer phones and really put us into, you know, 24/7. So it's just, this is just the beginning. I mean, we're going to go so far with all of this as it develops. We really appreciate everybody's time. We really appreciate your time, Casey. Thank you so much,
Yes.
not only for choosing us, but really helping us as we go through this journey together and trying to figure out what can we do and, you know, come up with new things and experiment, see if they work, and, you know, go from there. And thank you for being on the webinar with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for listening to all my crazy ideas.
Well,
Thank
everybody
you,
have a
Casey.
great day. If you have any questions, you know, feel free to reach out to Kristen or I, and we look forward to speaking to you. Have a great day.